let's see how this car is and let's see what the new changes are. The front of the car has just minor tweaks. The whole car has some minor tweaks, but one of the major changes that this car has is the front end. It has the traditional BMW family grille now. The size has gone up, as you can see in the new X3, X5, X7. The grille size has gone bigger. The headlights have changed slightly to match with the X3 and the X5 look. And the minor changes the bumper with accommodating new designs for the fog lights and new fast skid plates to give it that crossover look. Overall, the look is again very traditional BMW, but it's just to keep it trend with the current BMW family and keeping it trend with the other cars in this segment. Side profile, you'll be hard pressed to find any changes. It's pretty much the same as the earlier car. One change you'll notice is these alloys are different. These are 17-inch alloys compared to the older ones that had 18 in the M Sport. Even this has 18 in the M Sport, but the design is different. I feel it's much more simpler and a tad too plain for the kind of profile this car attracts to. More change on the side profile is the addition of silver accents on the side skirt, if you can call it, on the car. And that's about it. Not many radical changes on this car in the side profile. The rear end of the car has very minor changes again, much lesser than the front. One of the major changes you'll notice if you are a keen BMW fanboy is that the tail lights have slight minor revisions. They are full LED units. This is minor revisions, and you can notice perhaps that the chrome exhaust tips are slightly bigger in size. Yes, both of them are functional. They're not dummies like some other cars in its segment, but these two are functional. And these are basically these are the changes in the rear of the X1. There are some badging to tell you that yes, this is an X1, just in case you forget what you're driving. And Sdrive 20D. So this car also comes with a 20i, a 2-liter petrol. This has a 2-liter diesel, and Sdrive means it's front-wheel drive. Earlier, the M Sport and the top of the variant X line used to have X-Drive, which means all-wheel drive. Now, this car, even its top variant, the M Sport, gets only front-wheel drive, which is signified by the S-Drive badging. It comes with the trusted BMW 2-liter diesel engine that has been doing duty in a lot of BMW cars, say the 5 Series, X3, 3 Series and the works. So this car has the same trusty, reliable 2-liter diesel engine which produces about 190 horsepower with round about 400 Nm of torque. As you can see, once I open the bonnet, you can see that the engine is a huge unit and takes up quite a lot of room in the engine bay. The interior again is a very familiar place, a very typical BMW, the same design as the previous X1 did. There is the removal of the CD player. Finally, BMW has stopped giving the CD players, which is pretty weird because, you know, the world has moved on from CDs a long time ago. So I'm surprised that it's now that BMW has moved on from the CD player. The iDrive screen is pretty much similar to what the previous generation X1 had, or if I cannot say the generation, the previous iteration of the X1, since this is only a facelift, it's not a new generation change. The steering wheel is pretty much the same. There is one minor change on the steering wheel, which is the addition of cruise control, which is something really surprising. The previous X1 did not have cruise control, so now finally, thank God, this one has. It's a very useful thing, especially with speed cameras all around Delhi. It's a very useful thing. The gear lever is pretty much the same. It's different from the previous generation. This is what the 3 Series and the 5 Series have now, so this is again something that's been carried out to complete the BMW family. And overall, the whole silhouette is the same of the previous pre-facelift X1. Not many changes. The armrest is still the same. You can keep your knick-knack change, and then if you open it, there's further a cup holder where you can keep your wallet or phone for anything, because this phone does come with Apple CarPlay, which is also wireless CarPlay. This does not come with Android Auto. I don't know why BMW does not provide Android Auto. Maybe it thinks that its customers only buy iPhones, which is a real weird omission, but I hope one day BMW does provide Android Auto as well. But this does have CarPlay, which is good news for Apple fans. The seats themselves are really nice. I feel like they're a little tight hugging. I'm not the fittest guy around, and I feel like maybe I have a little too much support, but again, it holds you well in corners, so it's really nice, and the cushion is really comfortable. I mean, I did a trip to Lucknow and back, which is about 1200 kilometers on the same day. So I did about 1200 kilometers and about 15 hours of driving on the same day, which is quite a lot, but it was extremely comfortable. I did not feel tired at all. And then you have two cup holders, which now I can put sanitizers and stuff, you know, with regard to COVID. It's very useful. Again, the usual works in here, nothing too radical, and in fact I think the changes inside are even lesser than the changes outside, and unless you're a true BMW enthusiast, you'll be able to notice the changes inside as well. The rear of the X1, you notice that space is actually not that bad. The older generation or the first edition of the X1 had a severe problem in the rear legroom. This one has it solved bang on. I mean, I'm 5'8". This driving position is, in fact, for my driving position, in fact, a little behind to my usual driving position. And as you can see, I have ample leg room. I have ample foot room. I can put my feet in under the seat. It's not an issue. One complaint I would raise is that under thigh support is pretty low. I mean, I wish that I had more support for my thighs. Backrest is on the former side and it's pretty upright, but again, pretty comfortable. You do have rest your arm on the door. You do have something to hold on to. You have the speaker cutout, which is a little weird. I mean, I wish that was better integrated. And you do get a lot of sunlight, even for the rear passengers, through the panoramic sunroof. It doesn't open all the way through. It only opens for the front people. But you do get a lot of room and light inside. It makes it really roomy inside. Once you do open the center armrest, again, you will notice that there is a button to which you open. There are 2 cup holders where you can use. The rear passengers can also enjoy their drink in the back. Nothing else new again here. It's just the usual BMW X1, the usual BMW interior, and I think that's not a bad thing at all, because this is one area where the X1 never had any issues regarding it. With access to the tailgate, there is an electromagnetic boot release which you open, and then you get access to the boot. There is a box inside which indicates how much boot space there is, and as you can see, it can take enough luggage. I won't say it's the biggest boot space around, but it can take maybe, say, 1 large suitcase, 2 large suitcases, and maybe 1 small suitcase for your weekend trips, which is more than sufficient for this. Now I'm behind the wheel of the new facelifted X1, so let's see how this car drives. So slot into D, let go of the brake, and you can notice that the car sets off pretty easily. No lag as such. Give it a little throttle and you're easily putting around town, slow speeds, not an issue at all. It's actually very easy, very typical BMW. And then once you come to a corner, you'll instantly notice that the steering is actually on the heavier side. I mean, it's a tad too heavy for slow speeds. The fact that it weighs up at higher speeds, it's really good, but I think it should have been a little on the lighter side when in stop-start traffic speeds, because I am right now in stop-start traffic speeds, and I feel that steering is really heavy. Once you get going and then you put your foot down, you're just cruising, and there's such a linear power delivery. Before you know it, you'll be way above the speed limit, and you need to keep an eye out for that, because it masks speed really well as well. I mean, I've taken this car on highway speeds. I mean, I was doing 100, 110 the whole day, and yes, this car does have the speed governor at 80 and then constantly at 120, which is really annoying. But I think that can be coded out. There's a lot of aftermarket solutions for that, so that can be fixed. But this car masks speed really, really well. I mean, it's a really, really nice cruising car. Use the cruise control finally, and then it settles into 8th gear. Yes, this is an 8-speed ZF, so you can settle to 8th gear, and the RPM is, I think, around 1500 at say 100 or 110 kph, which actually helps give it amazing fuel economy as well. So on my trip to Lucknow and back, I got a staggering 18.5 kilometers per liter roughly, which I think is pretty amazing for a car that has such a big displacement, and it's pretty heavy. So this car is 1.6 tons around. So for a car of this size, this weight, and this power, I think 18.5 kilometers per liter is pretty respectable, with respect to all the factor that's coming in. So right now this car also has drive mode. So I mean, I am in comfort mode. So there is an eco mode that dulls down the power delivery, is more aggressive with engine braking, and the start-stop is more intervening in traffic as well. The start-stop hybrid system, that is not a hybrid system, the start-stop system that engine kills itself when you're waiting at the set of lights, and then when you let go of the brake, it starts again. But it's actually really, really fun to drive it in comfort or sport mode. So as you probably cannot tell right now, but as soon as I put in sport, the car downshifted twice to maintain the power in the actual power range. So when I put my foot down, there is no delay, and it just sets off. Wow. Yeah, so that's the 80 beep, and it's so nice. Linearly, you'll not be able to tell what kind of speeds you're doing until you look at the speedometer, or you get that beep at 80. So that's kind of the dual personality this car has. It can be nice and gentle, and then when you put it to sport and then put your foot down, it actually takes off. Any gear you are in, it just takes off. Also, it is much more helped that this car also has paddle shifters, which is really nice. It's big aluminium ones behind the steering. Feel really nice to hold and very tactile, and they work really well. I mean, the gearbox is a fine unit. It downshifts so quickly. So with the paddles, it's actually fun. I mean, you can see I can just put down some gears, upshift, and if I brake, I can just downshift. Oh, that is really quick. I think this is on par with the VAG Group DSG, maybe even faster, which I think Complement doesn't get bigger than that. It's really fast and really nice to drive. The handling is superb. So this car is front wheel drive. Yes, I know many BMW purists don't like that because a BMW has to be rear wheel drive, but this is front wheel drive. But the way this car handles, I think I could do without the rear wheel drive. That's how fine this car handles. I mean, the front end is so snappy. I mean, you can change direction so quick, and the rear also does not lose traction. I mean, sometimes if you're pushing really hard, you might find lift off oversteer, which again you better be aware to catch it because it snaps pretty fast. But it's so nice. The steering feel, once you pick up speed, throw it around corners, you would love the way this car handles. I mean, seriously, it's one of, if not the best front wheel drive cars I've ever driven. Not even kidding. I know praise gets pretty high in this, but it's probably one of the best handling front wheel drive cars I've driven. And it shows that BMW has made it, even though it's front wheel drive, but it has the typical fun to drive, agile characteristic that every BMW has. So I mean, even if BMW did make it, I mean, it's a front wheel drive, that's a sad part, but it's so good that you might not actually miss the rear wheel drive. And I think again, Complement doesn't get bigger than that because BMWs are known to be rear wheel drive. So if they can nail a front wheel drive, you know they are in the business for good. It's just so fun to drive. The ride is superb. I mean, it does get a little crashy on big potholes, but once the speed pick up, the ride is really nice. It's suppressing, it's comfortable, and it tackles potholes and all with aplomb. It's really nice. It is choppy at slow speed, so you have to be careful with the big potholes and the big speed breakers at slow speeds, or else you might get tossed around. But otherwise, it's a great car to drive in.
The BMW X1 then, or the BMW LCI X1 as BMW would like us to know. Well, this is just a facelift and no major changes have been done in the car. The powertrain is the same, the chassis is the same, the ride is the same, everything is literally the same. The changes are on the surface and cosmetic mostly, and that's totally fine because the X1 was always a very accomplished product in its segment. With the new looks, it I think looks updated and it looks really cool among other cars in its segment right now. And again, BMW didn't have much to change, much to fix, and obviously, you know the phrase, why fix it if it ain't broke? And that's exactly the case with the BMW X1. At 41.5 lakhs ex-showroom, the BMW X1 is quite well priced as well. It's got great kit and it's got amazing dynamics. I think the king of the segment is now going to make its lead even stronger in its segment, and that's a great thing for BMW India. Thank you very much for watching. See you next time. Bye bye.